Whoa, gotta get going.
Oh boy, here we go. This is episode 15 of Shenmue. I kinda lied, I guess, a little bit because I had every intention of finishing this game up this past weekend, but to be honest, I just couldn't. My brain could not deal with all of this crap at this point, and I realized I was being like extremely negative in the last few episodes, and I kind of apologize for that, but to be blunt, I'm really just kind of done with this game. But I figured it's now Wednesday. I figured I might as well try and finish. So yeah, episode 15. I don't know how many more we've got left, but I'm gonna just try to get on through it. I don't know. I guess as a reminder, we found out last episode that Landy is still, in fact, in Japan. He's still in the harbor, and I got to find out more about some kind of trade that's going down between the Mad Angels and the Chiyu Min, apparently. So yeah, we're back to this harbor business. Good lord. God, I wish I could just skip this. I really don't see the point anymore.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Can I skip this? No,
You all do your best now.
Yeah, okay.
Like always, 3 laps to the finish. Everybody ready? Yeah. On your mark. Almost time to go. Go.
Okay. So yeah, like I said though, I had every intention of finishing this game up this past weekend, like literally this past Sunday, and I just didn't. I chose not to. I wanted a break. I didn't want to do this anymore. So I don't know. I wish I had more to talk about in that regard. I mostly spent the last few days, I've been doing yard work. And for whatever reason, I've been watching a bunch of, watched a few movies, I guess, over the last few days. I did watch Manhunter, really good Michael Mann film. If anybody's interested in like Thomas Harris novels, or if you're a fan of like The Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter, the show Hannibal, you should really check out Manhunter, because it was the first ever adaptation of Thomas Harris's Red Dragon, and it's really good. It's really 80s, and you know, which if you asked me about a decade ago if that was a bad thing, I would have said yeah, because a lot of people really wouldn't like the 80s aesthetic. But nowadays, it's like every other thing on the internet, everybody seems to really love 80s aesthetic stuff. So that movie is like as 80s as it gets. Like, it's basically an R-rated Miami Vice episode. It's really good. I really thoroughly enjoy it. And then I watched a bunch of Andrei Tarkovsky films because I guess I was just in that kind of mood. This game tends to put me into that kind of mood. Of just like, you know what, fuck it. I just want to watch extremely slow-paced movies that I could just kind of veg out to for a little bit and enjoy for their aesthetic value and their clever filmmaking techniques. And really, though, seriously, like, if you've never heard of Andrei Tarkovsky, go look him up. He's an amazing filmmaker. I know I watched Solaris, I watched Stalker, I watched Nostalgia, which, incidentally, Nostalgia, everybody gives that movie a lot of shit. I actually think that might be one of his best films. I don't think it's better than Stalker, but it's damned close, I think, in many respects. It's a little rough around the edges, admittedly, but it's not a bad thing. It's got a really, really cool conceit behind it, and the sort of backstory as to why he made the film is really cool, and I don't know, it's just a really neat, fantastic little piece of filmmaking. It's also, incidentally, I think because usually his films are like 3 hours long, so like a lot of people probably could not just sit through them, but like Nostalgia is like right at 2 hours, so it's actually really manageable. Like, you don't have to plan an entire day around it. Like you would say Stalker or Solaris to a certain extent, or God forbid, Andrei Rublev, good lord.
Oh man, so close. You almost had it.
No, I didn't.
Here's your prize.
But yeah, go check out Andrei Tarkovsky.
Thanks.
He's an amazing filmmaker. I highly recommend him. And if you know me personally and you
Let's
check
get
it out,
cracking.
you'll know within seconds, like, oh, that's why Jared likes Andrei Tarkovsky. That's why he loves these movies so much. I see.
Gotcha. Take this cargo to warehouse number 18. Here's the map. The quote is written on it. No problem. This one's a bit further, so don't get lost.
Okay. Yeah. I will say I'm in a little bit of a better mood for this kind of stuff today. I just, like, I've had enough away time from this to not, like, be totally pissy about having to do all this. Where am I going? Okay, wait a minute, wait. Okay, so going to warehouse 18. Great. But yeah, I don't know. I wish I had more to say about Andrei Tarkovsky. Like, I have a hard time really talking about him as a filmmaker because I always feel like I'm not giving him I'm not giving him the right kind of like sales pitch because, like, I don't know, it's kind of odd. Like, I know I mentioned, god damn it, I mentioned Stalker. I know there might be a couple people who see this and think, wait a minute, Stalker, like the video game? And the answer to that is yes, sort of, kind of. So, like, to explain, Stalker initially started out as a short novel by the what are they named? The Stukoksky brothers, Stukorsky, something like that. Is a pair of authors, Russian authors who wrote a short novel back in, I want to say might have been the early 60s, I believe, called Roadside Picnic, which is a really good short novel. I highly recommend going to read that. It's really great. And so in 1976, Andrei Tarkovsky decided he was going to do a filmed adaptation of Roadside Picnic. And he did. Actually, it's an amazing story behind the making of that film, because he actually shot half of the film. He started shooting in 1976, and I think in 1977 he had basically finished half the film, because it was going to be a two-part film. And they were using like an experimental film stock that Kodak had recently put out in that, I think the year prior. And there's a lot of hearsay about what really went down, but basically the gist of it is that experimental film stock did not work out, and when it was processed, it was not processed correctly, and so the whole thing had to be thrown out. They literally had half a film that they had to throw out. And so Tarkovsky ended up having to literally start the film over from scratch, and spent another 2 years shooting what eventually became the film Stalker, which is a fantastic, amazing film. Especially if you're a big, if you're a fan of art films, or if you're a fan of just filmmaking in general, techniques involved in filmmaking, stuff like that. It is an absolute treat to sit through. It's just a really, really fantastic motion picture. But so, kind of getting to the point I was trying to make, because I know there's some people who are like, Stalker, but that's a video game too, right? It is, and so the game Stalker, here's the fun fact. The game Stalker is like some kind of weird amalgamation of the original novel Roadside Picnic, and the 1979 Tarkovsky film. But it is kind of really its own thing. It's not even remotely like either in many respects. There's some basic general stuff that's similar. There's a zone, and there are the zone is magic, and there's a room where you can be granted wishes and stuff. But so I've had a few people I've known who are real big fans of the video game Stalker, and I always try to always try to like point out like, hey, you should probably go watch the movie. Like if you really like the game, you might actually really like the movie, if only because like just for the aesthetic sense of the film. Like it's just really different. I guarantee you, if you've never heard of it, or if you've heard of it but you never really wanted to watch it, like I promise you, if you watch the film, you'll understand within seconds. Like you've never seen a movie like that before. I promise. Like it's so thoroughly unique, even by today's standards. I mean, you know, again, this is a film that was finished and released in 1979. Though it was like released and it was like distributed in Russia in 1979. It didn't make it to Europe until like I think 81, I believe. But it's a fantastic, really good film. As a matter of fact, if you want an even better idea of like why the film might be good, like if you go on YouTube right now and you go to that little search bar and you type in there's a critic, critic and author, writer I thoroughly enjoy, a British gentleman by the name of Jeff Dwyer, Geoffdyer. He is probably the biggest fan of Stalker besides me, and if you go on YouTube and look him up, you will find interviews with him and little like lectures he gives at screenings of the film, and he kind of goes into a pretty good amount of detail about why the movie is, you know, just so damn great, and why he loves it so much, and you know, probably would give a pretty good idea of why I love it so much too. I mean, it's a really good movie. But then again, Tarkovsky in general, you know, like I always kind of, because I have been thinking about this quite a bit, because I've got a lot of friends who I would love to actually show off Tarkovsky films to, and be like, oh look, you need to watch this. Modern movies suck? Well, watch this. This is good stuff. But like I've been sort of debating in my head like what Tarkovsky films would actually be good as far as like an introduction to what he does and how he does stuff. Because I don't know that I would actually, like, Stalker is not actually that bad of a starting point, really. I think most people would probably have very little issue jumping into it, though it, like, I almost feel like you would be jumping into the deep end of a pool, because like there's a lot of stuff he does in Stalker that's like very, very, very idiosyncratic when compared to you know, other films of its time, and especially modern films with modern sensibilities. Like his films are just they're very slow. You know, they're like Tarkovsky had like these ideas about like with regards to editing and long takes, where he wants to put the audience into a trance of sorts. Like he wants you to really like kind of seep in and dig into the movie. So I don't know, like he's got his first well, wait a minute, hold on, I'll pause that. Keep all that in mind. I don't know if there's dialogue or not. Well, actually I don't think there is, probably. It's just Rio and Mark and the crew eating. But I guess like a really good entry point for Tarkovsky, if you wanted to get into him, I think his first feature, he did like a World War II. I wouldn't call it a war. I mean, I guess it is a war film, but it's not. It's very different than what you might expect. I guess I could just say it's a war film, but not really. But it's a film called Ivan's Childhood, or Ivan's Childhood, as some people say. I believe the proper pronunciation, at least in Russian, would be Ivan. That's how they refer to him in the film. But that's a really good movie, and it's, I think, a pretty good starting point for Tarkovsky if you're kind of like not 100% sure if you would like him. It's like I think the film is like 93 minutes and change, something like that. It's a pretty quick watch. Very good movie though. I think it's absolutely worth checking out. If you can get a hold of it, if you want to start with something a little more artsy.
I should buy one.
You could always try. I don't know if there's a really good way to watch it in the United States. I think it's like Europeans probably have access to a Blu-ray of it. But he had a film he did in between Andrei Rublev and Solaris called, or did he do it after Solaris?
Maybe I should
think it
get
was before
another.
Solaris. Film called Mirror. That's a really good one. It's not too big of a time investment. And that one is more like if Ivan's Childhood is like kind of a more mainstream, kind of like early Tarkovsky. He's not really doing anything too crazy in it, but like Mirror is kind of where a lot of people kind of point out is like that's the movie where he gets just like ridiculous. Like that's when he goes from making this big huge epic film in the form of Andrei Rublev, which is gorgeous and just a wonderful,
I know this.
amazingly cool film, especially if you're interested in fine arts and specifically Russian icon painting. It's just absolute best.
Maybe I should get another.
But Mirror would be kind of a good start for the more arty, more sort of, I don't want to say abstract, but the more audacious stuff. And then if you're looking for like I don't know, like if you're cool with like a science fiction film that doesn't really work like a science fiction film
I should try again.
explicitly, you could always try Solaris. That's a really good game. Matter of fact, I forget who it was. It was someone on YouTube, some video I saw on YouTube. Somebody made a really good
I know this.
argument that that Silent Hill 2 of all things,
I should try again.
that the writers and the artists and stuff from who worked on Silent Hill 2 may very well have used Solaris as a kind of like a foundational reference of sorts. I don't really want to say any more than that, because if you've played Silent Hill 2, that could really spoil the movie. Or if you have not played Silent Hill 2, that could still spoil that game as well.
I should try again.
But Solaris is, I think, really good. I remember the first time I saw it, in fact, I absolutely despised it. As a matter of fact, I hated it. I thought it was the most I thought it was the most pretentious, slow-moving, uninteresting. What is happening? Why is there so much of nothing happening? But I did finally kind of, I finally got my head out of my ass eventually, and I was like, oh wait, actually this is some really amazing stuff. Like this guy knows exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it in a way that's just really, it's uniquely
another.
And I'm not a Russian cultural expert, but like it's uniquely Russian in the way that Dostoevsky is uniquely Russian. If you've ever read a Dostoevsky novel, it's or Chekhov, if you've ever like seen or looked around or read a Chekhov play or something, like it's really,
I should try again.
It's very distinctly Russian, but it's also very it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Worldly. Like it's not just for Russian audiences. Like you can get just as much out of any of Tarkovsky's films as, say, an American as you could a Russian. Though Russians would have some very clear advantages in terms of cultural references and general tone, but still, it's fascinating stuff.
It's the same one.
But the cool part about, well, it's not really cool. It's actually kind of sad, because unfortunately, Tarkovsky he died of, I believe it was some form of cancer in 1986, and he only made 7 feature films. So he made Ivan's Childhood, Andrei Rublev, Mirror, Solaris, Stalker, Nostalgia, and The Sacrifice. So thankfully, most of his films, they're available in the United States on Blu-ray. And it's not a huge monetary investment. You can get most of them for a fairly decent price. I know, like Andrei Rublev, you can get it on Blu-ray for like $28 right now on Amazon. But I would highly recommend checking him out. He is a really great, really excellent filmelmaker. I wish more people would kind of get into him, because I think
not today.
I think he's a really just a very unique filmmaker. There's really not. I can't really think of any
Maybe
filmmakers
just one.
working today that are like there's another Russian filmmaker I can think of. What's his name? Is it Alexander Sokurov? I think did a film called Russian Ark. I remember seeing that.
It's the same one.
He likes to think he's similar to Tarkovsky.
Maybe
I think.
I should get another.
He's not bad though. Like he's just very, I don't know, a bit esoteric for my tastes. Trying to think there. Oh, and I guess, well, kind of.
This again?
But if you, I don't even know how I would even begin to
Maybe
explain
I should
that.
get another.
There's a Danish filmmaker by the name of Lars von Trier. Most of his stuff is nothing like Tarkovsky, admittedly. Like a lot of his early work, which is excellent, is like very, very idiosyncratic and very, very strange.
I know this.
But his later works, specifically starting with Antichrist
I should
and
try
going
again.
into Melancholia, and then I think Nymphomaniac, and I forget his latest film. Is like one about a serial killer. Like those ones are very, very much like very obviously.
I know this.
Very obviously taken from Tarkovsky, like in terms of the visuals, in terms of the film
again.
language. But
Nah,
I don't
not
know.
today.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to. I don't know. It's hard. I have
It's
a hard
already
time
this
recommending von Trier. Like I really I enjoy his work, and I think he's
Was it number 18?
generally good, but like at the same time, it's also like his films are very. His films tend to be somewhat problematic. I'll put it that way, and not always in a bad way, but in ways that make for very uncomfortable viewing. So like, von Trier, like, don't go out and start watching his movies right now. Like, please do not go do that. Like, I promise you, you will be like, you will hate me for the rest of your life if I somehow convince you to go do that. Like, he's great, but he's also like, again, very. You have to ease into a lot of his stuff because it's. Oh boy, like. And the first time I saw Europa, and I was like, oh, this looks like a fun movie, and I was like, wait, is this movie saying Nazis are good? What is this? What is this movie? I don't believe that's what's going on in that movie, but I know I had quite a bit of. I had a lot of reservations after finishing that one, and same with Antichrist. Good God, Antichrist. I don't even know where to begin with that movie. Like I will say this much with Antichrist. All I can say is genital mutilation, and I think that should probably get most people way off that scent real quick. Like it's, woo man, like, but it is an interesting film. I remember reviews at the time when the film debuted at Cannes Film Festival. I think it was like back in 2000. Was it 2008? It was a while ago. But oh
man.
oh no, it's Goro.
What happened?
I was just walking with that sailor guy. Hey, schoolboy, come on!
You!
Oh,
I can't tell if that guy's muscular or fat. It's
hey,
like,
over here!
this totally is not a trap, I'm sure. Oh my God.
He's coming. Ha ha! I took the bait.
So you showed, eh? You guys again. What's your problem?
That'd be you. Ah! Hey, boy!
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty cool.
No escape, boy!
Kind of messed that up a little bit, but that's okay. just one little mess up. So when they start throwing the directional inputs in, that's when I really get.
Pay for beating up Goro.
You his girlfriend?
Yes,
What did you
in fact.
say?
Best watch your back. Next time it won't be just you.
What?
We're gonna go after your family and friends. Gonna get 'em.
That's it!
Oh!
Damn. Damn, Rio. Gee whiz, man. Though you can't I guess I can't really blame him. Yeah, I don't know, But yeah, like... what was I saying? Yeah, that's right, Antichrist. So... I remember, like, part of the reason I was even remotely interested in it was for two reasons. One, it was because the film was, you know, written and directed by Lars von Trier, and I'm a fan, though in many ways I'm also kind of an apologist. It's sort of I sort of feel like this is what Brian De Palma fans feel like all the time. It's like, well, you know, he does make good movies, but you know, like, but you know, we have to excuse ourselves when we see things like The Idiots, and it's like, oh well. But Antichrist, you know, it was Lars von Trier wrote and directed it, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I read a review, and I forget, was it Philip Lopate? It was someone, I think it might have been a New York Times review or something, and there was a reference made to the fact that it essentially felt like a horror film if it were directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Like if Tarkovsky had ever done a horror film, it might look something like Antichrist. And I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. And so I did end up finally getting to see the film initially on television. I had, for whatever reason, I forget if I think we still had like Dish Network or something. We had access to the Independent Film Channel, IFC. And a lot of times, like following Cannes Film Festival, they'll somehow get distribution rights where they can broadcast movies that were screened at the Cannes Film Festival, and Antichrist was one of them that year. And I was like, okay, great, I will sit down and watch this. And then I watched it. And I didn't watch it again until last year. So I watched it like the year it was made, and then I waited almost a decade, and then I watched it again. Because I really could not see myself ever wanting to see it again, because it was just probably one of the most intense and uncomfortable and upsetting movies that I have ever seen. And I am not a squeamish person really normally, and I'm not a I'm usually pretty good, especially with film. I normally don't get very like in a tizzy over movies, but that one like really affected me in a lot of really like negative ways. I was really not happy with my experience with that film. But I don't know, like if like even for people who are horror junkies who like horror films and things of that nature, they like gore films, and even more specifically if you like kind of like Eli Roth, like torture porn shit, I don't even know if I'd recommend it to people like that, like, because it's just not a pleasant movie. I can respect the film, mind you, for a lot of the things that it does, and the way in which it genuinely seems to, like I think I've described this before. Lars von Trier, like what I like about him is also the thing I think most people hate about him, is that when he makes a film, he's essentially designing the film to hate fuck you. That's really all he's doing. He's just hate fucking his audience the whole 2 hours or 90 minutes or however long the film is. And you know, there's a few movies of his that aren't quite like that. That they're a little more subdued and a little more traditional, I guess, if you want to call it that. But like overall, most of his films are just designed to make the audience very upset and very angry. You know, I think he revels in like getting, you know, letters from people, you know, telling him that he's a shit and that he's awful and that he's a terrible human being. Like I really think he gets off to that shit. But I can respect it because there is an art behind it. It's not like he's just, he's not just doing shit to get a reaction out of people. Like, there's a genuine thought process going into all this stuff. It's just that a lot of times his films do tend to sort of devolve into that, and I can see why some people get very irritated with him. But I would not just jump into him. Like, look him up, read some reviews of his work. More specifically, read some like critical analyses of his work. Like, I think he's one of the few filmmakers I could think of where you probably don't want to go into him blind. Like, you kind of want to be in on the joke before you start, digesting anything he's made. Tarkovsky, on the other hand, no. You can just straight up, like, jump into Tarkovsky. Watch Ivan's Childhood, Mirror, Solaris, something like that. Start with those. And, watch those films, and then read some analysis if you're interested, and, kind of to get a little bit more of an appreciation of them. But Von Trier, you really need to, you need to do some homework before you start messing around in his wheelhouse, because it's, oh boy, it goes places. Like, really dark and very uncomfortable places. See, this is not a bad way to do this. This is an easy way to pass the time. I should have been doing this the minute I started this stupid forklifting shit. I should have been just talking about different, like, literally anything else other than the task at hand. I guess I've been doing some reading. I've been reading some Philip K. Dick short stories. That's been something I've been doing too. That has been interesting. Come on, Goro, move. Philip K. Dick, if you don't know who he is, by the way, he's the guy who wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was adapted into Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. He's an interesting writer. He's actually a really good writer, but like some of his ideas are really out there, and in a good way, I think. But like, I don't know. I don't remember the title of it. I actually own a collection of his short stories. Because a lot of times, if I'm like interested in an author, first thing I usually look for are short stories instead of just jumping into a big ass novel. It's a good way to kind of get a feel for their tone and their prose work, and like, okay, well, okay, so this might be a bit prosaic, or this might be a little bit, but weirdly enough though, it's really funny. Like, it never really occurred to me until kind of reading a lot of his short story work, like just how much of his works have been adapted into films. Like, I knew this was the case, but I never even thought to read it. But I read the short story that Steven Spielberg's Minority Report is based on, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm genuinely shocked at how much more I liked aspects of the original short story than I did the movie, because I really liked the film Minority Report. Like, spoiler alert, I'm a huge fan of film noir shit.
Okay, good job.
And that's like a straight up classic noir, and it's really, really cool, except with like super sci-fi elements.
Thanks.
Probably, arguably,
quota, son. So starting tomorrow, you'll get a 50 yen raise.
Thank you, sir.
That'll be 500 yen per crate.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Keep up the good work.
I will.
Yes, thank you very much.
But yeah, like, if you haven't seen Minority Report, like, go watch that now. Like, seriously, I would argue, well, god damn it.
Hey, Dio. I overheard some information.
Information?
I heard them all whispering something about Long Ja. That is soon.
Long Ja?
Best I can figure, it's some Mad Angels black market deal. Makes sense. They've been on edge lately.
Haven't we all, Mark?
When's it supposed to happen?
Today, tomorrow, tonight, I don't know. When is the next Long Ja deal? I don't know. But yeah, if you have not seen Minority Report, I would highly recommend you go watch that as soon as possible. It's I believe honestly, like, and I say this with no irony at all, I think it's one of, like, with Steven Spielberg, like, you could kind of split his career into like two halves. He had like basically everything from like Duel to, I would argue, The Lost World. Like, that's kind of like the first half of his career in many respects. Like, and then everything after The Lost World is like, because I mean, he had some really good movies in that first period, like, you know, Jaws, Duel, Raiders of the Lost, any of the Indiana Jones films, including Temple of Doom. And I do know it's very, like, super problematic movie, extremely racist in many respects, but I kind of feel like it's the weird dark kind of unloved child of the Indiana Jones films. There's like stuff in it I really like. There's also stuff I'm like, that's kind of bad even for the mid '80s. But you know, the Indiana Jones films were good. He did what else did he do? He did you know, E.T. E.T.'s a good movie, I think. You know, he's got a lot of films in that first half, but then like you get to, like, the second half of his career, you start seeing stuff like stuff like Munich, War of the Worlds, which I think is a severely underrated science fiction film. I think I think the second half of the film is just a mess, but like the first half of it is really good. Also has some of the best sound design I've ever heard in a film. Like, really seriously, like, it's just unbelievable how good it sounds.
Hey, mister.
Oh, hey.
Oh, youngin', it's you. I heard about you. Here you're after the Mad Angels.
Yes.
I know you want revenge, but if something happening to you, how about the Hazuki tradition?
But
No buts, boy. If no one were left to carry on, oh, what a shame that'd be. I will show you another move.
Great.
What's that move?
It's called the cross charge. Just at the moment you evade, slam into your opponent's side. When you's up against multiple opponents, they can all gang up on you, you know. This move is perfect for times like that.
Sounds like a pretty obvious hint about
Thank you
what's to
very
come,
much.
possibly. But god damn it, I will get my point across. So yeah, so you got like films like Munich and War of the Worlds. What else? Lincoln, I guess, kind of fits in there. Catch Me If You Can. He had a lot of really, like, he has a lot of really good film. Like, his later work, I think, is absolutely, like, especially from a technical perspective, is absolutely better than a lot of his early work. But Minority Report, I kind of feel like gets weirdly sidelined a lot. Like, I don't hear a lot of people really talk about that movie, and I wish more people did, because it's, I would argue, of that sort of later era Spielberg stuff, I really think it's his best. I think the pacing is excellent. I think the performances throughout the film are really good. Tom Cruise especially, he's really good as John Anderton, the most Tom Cruise character name ever. I know John Williams' music throughout is really good. The special effects are surprisingly good. Like, they really do hold up even today. And it's just a really good, like, it's a science fiction film first and foremost, but really seriously, it's just a straight up film noir mystery. And it's really, really well done, and it's got a hell of a, with the only, like, and that's the only thing I can kind of, and you have to kind of stretch it so that it's not just completely awful. But it's the ending of the film that I think that a lot of people tend to have or take issue with. I know I did on my first viewing. I remember actually me and my best friend, we watched it on TV, on like HBO or something, and I remember we watched the whole film and we really liked it, but then we got to the ending of the film and I got like unbelievably like unrealistically pissed off. Like, I was genuinely like, you could not have fucked that up more, Steven. Like, what the hell? Like, dude, why? But because like I won't spoil it, but there's like two endings to the film, and you see this sometimes a lot in. Well, I see this a lot in good movies, actually, where there's an ending and then there's like a sort of coda to the ending. And so Spielberg does
Toy
this.
capsules. 100 yen each, huh?
And
I should buy one.
like there's a point where the film, if it ended where I thought it was going to end, it would have genuinely been probably my favorite Spielberg film ever. Like, bar none. Like I would have been like, this is his best movie. This is the best movie he has ever made. Period. But then the film keeps going.
I should try again.
Again, I am really trying to be very general here because I do not want to spoil the film if you have not seen it. Like it just keeps going and it kind of drives me nuts.
I know this.
But I will say this, having read the short story it was based off of, the short story kind of has a very similar ending, so I can't really be completely mad at Spielberg or the screenwriter because it's really basically what Philip K. Dick wrote. But like, I think part of my problem with the Spielberg approach of the adaptation of it is that it's like it's too feel good, and it shouldn't.
Try again.
It's not supposed to be a feel good ending, as far as what Philip K. Dick wrote. Like, it's quite the opposite, especially with the implications in the short story. Like, what's being implied by the ending is actually thoroughly disturbing in terms of what it's presenting to the reader. But I don't know though. Check it out. I think it's a really good movie. I don't have any problem criticizing it for the aspects of its ending, but I think it's a really worthwhile film. So go watch that.
What? This again?
I gotta say, this has actually been really refreshing. Literally just going through this episode not talking at all about Shenmue has made this fly by. Like, just absolutely just flew right on by. I don't know though. I don't know. Leave comments. What are your favorite filmmakers? Tell me about filmmakers you like, or films you like. I love talking about film. Ask anybody who knows me. I'm like, maybe I should get another. I'm way too into that shit. I get super giddy when I get to have a conversation about movies. So yeah. In lieu of talking about this shitty game, like, just tell me about what are your favorite movies? Who are your favorite filmmakers? Tell me stuff I don't know. You know. I love being introduced to new stuff.
Maybe I should get another.
Yeah, and maybe you shouldn't, bucko.
I'll pass.
Yeah, we'll pass on that.
I love these.
Honestly, I'm just doing this for the achievement at this point. So if you're wondering why I've been dipping around with these damned gotcha balls, like, that's exactly why.
This again? I should try again.
You know, and I guess I could talk about that too, because I didn't really go off, or like...
What? This again?
I didn't really indulge on that one. So I mentioned near the beginning of this episode, I think, right?
I should try again.
I think it was during the forklift race, and I talked briefly about Manhunter. So, like, I know I guess it's been out for, like, what, a couple of weeks now? The newest season, or the new season of Mindhunter, David Fincher's, like, really good, you know, FBI procedural drama on Netflix. And it's really good. Like, I gotta say, I'm, like, just as a side note, I am so happy David Fincher has kind of matured into the filmmaker that he ended up becoming. Like, if you'd have told me that the guy who did fucking Alien 3, 7, and Fight Club was gonna make movies like Zodiac, and Gone Girl, and shows like Mindhunter, like, I would have told you were out of your fucking mind. Like, I would have been like, no way. Like, what cerebral fucking dramas and like super slow paced, like highly detailed, you know, character studies of men slowly losing their minds inside their jobs. Like, really? Like, no, come on. Like that, you could have fooled me. But I'm just so happy that he ended up becoming that kind of filmmaker. Like, he's so good. And if you really like Mindhunter, really seriously, like, go check out Zodiac. Go check out Gone Girl. Go check out, even The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I'm not a fan of. I'm not even an apologist for that film. That film is just kind of, it's Forrest Gump. It's just Forrest Gump. I mean, like, I wish I had a better way of explaining that. Like, that movie is literally just Forrest Gump with a weird, like, hook, you know, but even, like, stuff like Panic Room, that's a movie nobody seems to talk about, and I wish more people would. That movie is, like, way better than people give it credit for. Actually, fun fact, speaking of Panic Room, because I got a friend who had just recently played through Prey. And I've been meaning to tell him this because I thought he might find it interesting. But the opening credits of Prey, you know, when you're in the helicopter and you're flying around the city, and you see like the names of the developers and stuff, kind of like retrofitted into the cityscape, that is just straight up stolen from Panic Room. Like, David Fincher did that in Panic Room back in 2001. So I found that so strange when I played through Prey. I was like, whoa, somebody at Arcane apparently watched Panic Room. Like, that's cool. But again, kind of going back to Mindhunter, it's a really good show. Love it. Especially if you like procedurals, if you like Thomas Harris novels, if you liked if you liked the Hannibal TV show, this is like that, but way more grounded in reality, which I for one like, because like Brian Fuller just gets a little too like he gets a little too artsy sometimes with Hannibal, but Mindhunter's like a much more subdued and much more grounded approach to that, and I think it's a really fantastic show. David Fincher's done a really great job with it. But if you really like Mindhunter, you should really check out like Manhunter, I think, because Mindhunter owes a lot to that movie. Like, a lot of stuff owes a lot to that movie. And I know a lot of people aren't even aware. Like, most people, when they think, oh, Hannibal Lecter, they think, they'll think of what? They'll think of Anthony Hopkins, Silence of the Lambs, maybe Red Dragon, maybe Hannibal. Don't talk about Hannibal. That movie sucks. Gary Oldman is like about the only good thing in it. And I guess Julianne Moore's okay. Like, she's just not given anything to do in that movie. That was about the point where I realized Ridley Scott might be off his rocker. When I saw that film, I was like, ooh, yikes. What happened, Rid? Like, man, you used to be really good. But yeah, like, Manhunter was the first ever adaptation of a Thomas Harris novel. Ever. Nobody had ever attempted to do it, and it was done by Michael Mann, who, if you don't know who that is, Michael Mann is a writer and director. He's done films like Heat. He did the film adaptation of Miami Vice. He actually was the executive producer of the Miami Vice television show, and is more than likely the very reason why that show was so popular and why it was so good. And I'm not joking when I say that. The original Miami Vice television show, go watch that. Like, you may think, oh, it's corny. No, it's actually really good up until, like, season 3. I think. Because I want to say season 3 was the last season Michael Mann worked on, and then after that he left to go do Crime Story, and then, like, he was like, fuck all y'all, I'm just going to go make some really good movies. Yeah. Movies like Heat, The Insider, Ali, which is really good, Collateral, Public Enemies, which is horrible. Would not recommend that. It's got to be like one of my least favorite Michael Mann movies. I think that was the film that literally made me start hating Johnny Depp. To be quite honest, like that was the movie where I was just like, okay, I'm fucking sick of the Johnny Depp. Like, this guy can just go away. Did Black Hat with Chris Hemsworth, which critically did very poorly, from what I understand. But from what I understand, Michael Mann's there's like an actual there was an actual problem with the film. Like the studio, like really kind of took that movie away from Michael Mann. I don't know why, and they kind of relegated it to like, okay, you need to, it needs to be edited this way and done this way, so nobody liked it when it came out in theaters. But he's been shopping around a director's cut of it. I know he's been screening it, like, past couple years, and so, I don't know, maybe we'll actually see that at some point. I'm very curious, because I really like the idea of Black Cat, and I really like the idea of Michael Mann doing a film like that, about, cybersecurity and cyber terrorism and stuff like that, but I would much rather see what he what his his preferred cut than whatever the hell the studio forced him to do. But yeah, go check him out. He's a really good filmmaker too. He's really good. He's got like I don't think he's got a bad, like, except for like even Public Enemies, which is by far my least favorite of his movies, has a lot of redeeming qualities, but like it's just you have to get past you have to get past like what I consider to be the laziest Johnny Depp performance ever. Like it's just so late. It's not even like it's literally just Johnny Depp. It's not. There's no artistry to it. There's no like effort being put into it. It's just Johnny Depp. But Christian Bale's really good in it, so there is that. A lot of the supporting cast actually is really good in that movie. Stephen Lang shows up. He's really good in that movie. Stephen Lang was the bad guy in Avatar. He was the bad, evil military dude in Avatar, if you're wondering who Stephen Lang is. Incidentally, Stephen Lang also was in Manhunter. That was the first time he and Michael Mann ever worked together. And he plays, if you're familiar with the Thomas Harris novel or you're familiar with Red Dragon, he plays Freddie Lounds in that, and he's actually really, really good as Freddie Lounds. It's really something. I don't know. Is there any reason for me to even? I really am not. I'm not gonna sit here and do all this shit. No. But see, I'm trying to do the shadow step thing, and it just does not. The game does not compute. It's almost like what I'm like really trying to figure out how that works. Okay, so it's like that. I think that's it, but I'm like not really. I don't know. This game's just a wonky fucking mess. But then again, I have played far worse, but that's not saying much. Oh. I don't know. I'm done. I guess that could be the end of the episode, because I mean, I literally spent the better part of this entire time not talking about this game. Just talking about movies and Philip K. Dick. I guess I can finish up that thought real quick. Like, Philip K. Dick, start with his short stories. Do not jump into one of his novels. I attempted that a few years ago by jumping into Ubik, which I believe was his first full-length novel. I was deeply concerned with anybody I've ever talked to who said Philip K. Dick was a good writer when I read that book. It had a lot of really cool ideas, but it was also the most boring thing I've ever read. I was like, this is really bad. But start with his short stories, check those out, and then kind of branch off from there into his novels. I have since reread Ubik. It's actually not bad at all. It's actually pretty damn good. No save space available. Why does it keep doing that? It's so weird. Yeah, like, go check him out. Check out his short stories and give him a shot. Go check out Andrei Tarkovsky. Do watch him. He's so good. Go see all of his movies, all of them, and watch them. And, like, get back to me on that. Tell me how good they are. Michael Mann too. Go watch his films. Go watch all the David Fincher stuff, specifically his later era stuff. His early stuff is really good too, but it's like you can tell he went from, ooh, I'm a trend-setting, edgy dude to like, oh no, I'm an actual like adult and I make adult films for adults. Go. Do not jump into Lars von Trier. Like seriously, look him up. Do some homework before you dive into that, because you will thank me when you do. In any case, though, I guess that's it. I really have nothing else to say. We got some stuff done in the game, I guess. We're moving the story forward slightly. And that's about all I can really say. Hopefully, I'll be done with this game in the next couple of episodes. So hopefully I'll have more to talk about. I imagine...
Look at the time.
Yeah, I know, Rio, I know. I imagine there's more forklift bullshit. So in any case, thank you for watching. I hope this was an enjoyable episode. Hopefully maybe you learned a little more about me and my interests, I hope. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe at your leisure, but let me know in the comments any filmmakers I should look into, stuff I might have missed. Try to find my blind spots, because I love to just get rid of those. So thank you in advance. In any case, again, thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully you'll join me for some more of this. Bye-bye.
He's on.
Don't you understand? I don't have time to listen to your bullshit.
I got it.